Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Learn English with Podcasts. I'm Jack.
And I'm Emma. In today's episode, we're going to explore some key structures in English grammar forming questions, using auxiliary verbs and understanding when to use the ing form versus the to infinitive. These topics are essential for constructing sentences correctly and communicating effectively in English.
That's right, Emma. We'll explain how and when to use these structures, provide lots of examples, and explore various situations where they're commonly used. Let's get started. Emma, let's start with forming questions. What are the basic types of questions in English and how are they formed?
In English, there are two main types of questions, yes-no questions and why questions. Yes-no questions can be answered with a simple yes or no, while why questions require more detailed responses and usually start with a question word like who, what, where, when, why, or how.
How do we form yes-no questions?
Yes-no questions are formed by inverting the subject and the auxiliary verb. For example, statement, you are coming. Yes-no question, are you coming? If there's no auxiliary verb in the statement, we add do, does, or did depending on the tense. Statement, she likes coffee. Yes-no question, does she like coffee?
And what about dubbed questions?
Why questions are formed by placing a question word at the beginning of the sentence, followed by the auxiliary verb and the subject. For example, statement, he is going to the store. Why question, where is he going?
So to ask where someone is going, I'd say, where is he going instead of he is going where?
Exactly, Jack. The correct structure involves placing the question word at the beginning, followed by the auxiliary verb and the subject.
Emma, we just mentioned auxiliary verbs in questions. Can you explain what auxiliary verbs are and how they're used?
Auxiliary verbs, also known as helping verbs, are verbs that are used alongside main verbs to form different tenses, voices, or moods. The most common auxiliary verbs are be, do, and have. Be is used to form continuous and passive tenses. Do is used to form questions and negatives in the present simple and past simple. Have is used to form perfect tenses.
How do these auxiliary verbs function in questions?
In questions, auxiliary verbs are often placed before the subject to form the correct structure. For example, present continuous question, are you working today? Present perfect question, have you finished your homework? Past simple question with do, did you go to the party?
So, if I want to ask someone if they've completed something, I'd say, have you finished your task?
Exactly. The auxiliary verb have comes before the subject followed by the past participle finished.
Emma, what about negative questions? How are they different from regular questions?
Negative questions are used to express surprise, confirm information, or suggest something. They're formed by placing not after the auxiliary verb or by contracting the auxiliary verb and not. For example, regular question, did you go to the meeting? Negative question, didn't you go to the meeting, or did you not go to the meeting?
So if I want to express surprise that someone didn't attend an event, I could say, didn't you attend the event?
Exactly, Jack. Negative questions often imply that you expected a different answer.
Let's move on to the ing form. Emma, when do we use the ing form of a verb in English?
The ing form, also known as the gerund or present participle, is used in several different contexts. As a noun, swimming is fun. After prepositions, he's good at playing tennis. In continuous tenses, she is reading a book. After certain verbs, I enjoy cooking.
Can you give us some examples of how the ing form is used in different situations?
Sure. As a noun, running is a great way to stay fit. After preposition, she's interested in learning Spanish. In continuous tenses, they are watching a movie. After certain verbs, he loves dancing.
So, if I enjoy a certain activity like reading, I'd say I enjoy reading.
Exactly, Jack. Many verbs that express likes and dislikes are followed by the ing form of another verb.
Now let's talk about the to infinitive. Emma, when do we use the to infinitive form of a verb?
The to infinitive is used in a variety of situations, including to express purpose, I went to the store to buy milk. After certain verbs, she decided to leave early. As a subject or object, to travel is my dream. After adjectives, it's important to be on time.
Could you give us some examples of how the to infinitive is used?
Absolutely. To express purpose, he studied hard to pass the exam. After certain verbs, they plan to move next year. As a subject or object, to learn English takes time. After adjectives, it's easy to make mistakes.
So, if I want to express my intention to do something like start a new project, I'd say I plan to start a new project.
Exactly. The to infinitive is often used to express intentions, plans, and purposes.
Emma, what are some common mistakes learners make with ing forms and to infinitives, and how can they avoid them?
A common mistake is using the wrong form after certain verbs. Some verbs are followed by the ing form, while others require the to infinitive. For example, correct, I enjoy reading, not I enjoy to read. Correct, I want to read, not I want reading. To avoid these mistakes, it's important to memorize which verbs are followed by which form. Practice by using these verbs in sentences to reinforce your understanding.
Let's go through some practical situations where different types of questions are commonly used.
Sure. Let's look at a few scenarios. Situation 1, asking for information.
Where do you work? What question?
I work at a bank. Situation 2, confirming details.
Did you finish the report? Yes, no question.
Yes, I did. Situation 3, expressing surprise.
Didn't you know about the meeting? Negative question.
No, I had no idea. Situation 4, making polite requests.
Could you help me with this task? Yes, no question, with a modal verb.
Of course, I'd be happy to help.
Now let's go through some practical situations where the ing form is commonly used.
Sure. Let's look at a few scenarios. Situation 1, talking about hobbies.
What do you enjoy doing in your free time? What question?
I love painting and hiking. Situation 2, describing ongoing actions.
What are you doing right now? Present continuous question.
I'm reading a great book. Situation 3, discussing skills.
Are you good at playing the piano? Yes, no question, with an ing form.
Yes, I've been playing for years. Situation 4, talking about plans.
Are you planning on traveling this summer? Present continuous question with an ing form.
Yes, I'm thinking of visiting Italy. Scene 9, using to infinitives in different situations.
Now let's go through some practical situations where the to infinitive is commonly used.
Sure. Let's look at a few scenarios. Situation 1, expressing intentions.
What do you plan to do after graduation? To question with to infinitive.
I plan to start my own business. Situation 2, talking about goals.
What's your goal for this year? What question?
My goal is to learn French. Situation 3, giving advice.
What should I do to improve my English? What question with to infinitive.
You should practice speaking every day. Situation 4, describing obligations.
What do you need to do before the meeting? What question with to infinitive.
I need to prepare the presentation.
Emma, how do we combine these structures in everyday conversation?
Combining these structures is all about understanding the context and choosing the right form for what you want to express. You might start with a question to gather information, use an auxiliary verb to clarify the tense, and follow up with an ing form or to infinitive to describe actions or intentions.
Can you give an example of a conversation that combines these elements?
Absolutely. Here's a dialogue.
What are you planning to do this weekend? What question with present continuous and to infinitive.
I'm thinking of going hiking. Present continuous with ing form.
Didn't you say you wanted to relax this weekend? Negative question with to infinitive.
Yes, but I changed my mind. I decided to be more active. Past simple with to infinitive.
Emma, do you have any tips for our listeners on mastering these grammar structures?
Definitely. Here are some tips. Practice forming questions. Start with simple yes/no questions and what questions, then practice forming negative questions to express surprise or confirm details. Memorize common auxiliary verbs. Get comfortable with be, do, and have, and practice using them in different tenses. Learn verb patterns. Practice recognizing which verbs are followed by ing forms and which by to infinitives. Create lists and practice using them in sentences. Listen and observe, pay attention to how these structures are used in conversations, movies, and TV shows. Practice imitating the way native speakers form questions and use these structures.
Emma, we've covered a lot in this episode. What are your final thoughts on mastering questions, auxiliary verbs, ing forms, and infinitives?
These structures are fundamental to speaking and writing English correctly. By understanding how to form questions, use auxiliary verbs, and correctly applying forms and infinitives, you'll be able to communicate more effectively and naturally. The key is to practice regularly and pay attention to the context in which these structures are used.
I couldn't agree more, Emma. With practice, anyone can become comfortable using these essential grammar tools.
Absolutely, Jack. We encourage all our listeners to incorporate these structures into their daily language use. The more you practice, the more natural they'll become.
That concludes our extended episode on questions, auxiliary verbs, ing forms, and infinitives. We hope you found it educational and helpful in your journey to mastering English grammar.
Thank you for joining us on this detailed exploration of these important structures. We appreciate your support and encourage you to keep practicing and learning.
Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast, follow us on social media, and visit our website for more learning resources. Your engagement helps us continue to bring you informative and valuable content.
Until next time, this is Emma.
And this is Jack. Goodbye.
Bye. Remember to leave a review and share this podcast with your friends. Together we can learn and make a difference.